Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Jamina. I'm the president of Tas Road Runners. I want to say thank you so much for coming tonight. Tonight's really the last seminar that we've got as part of our Cadbury Marathon activity guide. We put together a 3-month plan of activities that includes things like long runs and seminars and cross-training sessions. So there's still a month out, and there's a couple of the guides over there, and you can actually download it via the Cadbury website or the TRR website. So please get around that and join in on some of the stuff we got going there. And I guess the whole idea around that was to get people thinking about Cadbury like 3 months out so that you've got time to plan and prepare properly and do that kind of thing. And I'm actually going to put Welsh on the spot now and ask him for some stats on Cadbury since we're talking about that.
Why not?
Yep.
Why not?
So how many people have we got? What have we got?
So, evening. The good news is we have 300 more people who have entered the event than the same time last year. So there's 1,342 entries, having just checked. 319 in the full marathon, which is slightly more than we had last year already. Just over 500 in the half, which is always our biggest event. Still more women in every event except for the marathon. So we need to start seeing. Perhaps we need a role model for women marathoning in Tasmania. Perhaps if anyone can think of anyone. And we're bringing the other bit of exciting news around the Cadbury Marathon. Is everyone here running, or are you just here for Milly's talk? Hands up if you're not running the marathon, or an event.
At the moment.
So most of you, cool. So next weekend we're bringing down the world's #1 course measuring guy, and we're going to get the event measured to the highest international grading level through AIMS that is possible. And then we're also going to have timing mats out on course, which will make the event a Boston qualifier in the future. So you will no longer have to go to the North Island of Australia to qualify for Boston.
Awesome.
So there you go. Quick update on the Cadbury Marathon. Enjoy tonight. Over to the speaker.
Thank you. So big thanks to Cadbury Marathon. Thanks to Cadbury for supporting us. Thanks also to Athletics Tas, and I just also want to do a quick shout out to the TRR committee who will put this event together as well. But on to our speakers. I'd like to welcome and thank Milly Clark for coming along tonight. Thank you. So a bit of background, I'm sure you all know of her, but Milly's an Australian long distance runner. She ran her first official marathon in 2015 in Amsterdam, and in that run qualified for the 2016 Rio Olympics. At Rio she placed 18th, which was the highest placed Australian, and finished in 2 hours 30 and 53 seconds, which is phenomenal. This year she clocked a Tokyo Olympic qualifying time and a PB of 2:28.08 at Gold Coast, which also moved her up to 9th on the list of all-time Australian marathoners, female marathoners, and took a full 12 minutes off the Tasmanian record, I think. So that's awesome. And on top of that, Milly's a qualified sports dietitian and now works at Physio Tas in Launceston. So we've got a little sheet there with you with some contact details if you want to hook up a in-person or Skype session. Milly's available for that. I'll hand over. Thank you.
Thank you. Cool, thanks for having me. First of all, amongst whatever is on that rap sheet, my PowerPoint skills are not on there for a reason, so I apologise for the basic PowerPoint, but hopefully it will just be a tool to prompt kind of some good discussion here. So we're talking about obviously nutrition for your upcoming marathon. I've noticed most of you kind of raised your hand that you are doing the marathon, so that's really cool. Really exciting to see. Cadbury is a good course, should be pretty good. So first of all, why is nutrition important for a marathon? It can positively influence the factors that would otherwise limit your performance. So thinking about things like your fluid intake, your fuel intake, how you use that fuel, what you actually take in, and your ability to use that and translate that to a good time. It takes time, it takes adaptation, it takes your body a long time to actually get used to how you do that. So it's good that we're kind of having this, I guess, seminar now, because you can start practicing and getting your body used to what you're going to actually do on race day. And they're all things that take, time. So, your body, it's important to know that human beings are not really designed to marathon run. We're designed to, walk long distance. We're designed to sprint down and hunt a deer, but we're not really designed to run for a long period of time. So it's good to be able to think about, we need to do something in terms of our eating or recovery that compensates for the fact that we're doing something that the human body is not typically designed to do. So that's where I guess your ability to fuel and how you eat becomes really important. Cool. So I've broken, I guess, this seminar or talk into 3 kind of sections. Eating before a run, eating during a run, and eating after a run. And I'm also trying to touch on the variation between 5 and 42 kilometre distances. Is anyone running like a 5 or a 10k at Cadbury, or you're doing the marathon? 5, 10k? Yeah. So your nutrition will vary quite differently between a 5k and a 42k, just so you're aware. What you need to do in a 5k run versus a 42 is very, very different. So just to be aware of that. Cool. So, first thing, eating before a run. And before a run, I mean typically 1 to 2 hours before. So, my question to you is, who thinks that this is the most important meal for your performance? Yes? No? Who thinks, yes, this is the most important meal to influence my performance on this day? Yeah, we've got like 50-50 here. So then think about, how long do you think, once you eat a meal, how long do you know, if you think back to your like high school days in high school, how long did it take for you to digest and actually assimilate and absorb that energy that you ate? Typically about 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5 to 6. So realistically, if you get up at 5:30, you eat something, you start your race at 7, do you think you're actually using what you ate that morning? No, probably not. So a lot of people tend to think the morning they get up for a race, oh, I've got a carb load, I've got to eat a bowl of cereal, I've got to eat something in that morning before. It's probably not the most important meal, and we'll get to the most important meal and times that you eat later, but eating before a run is typically actually not the most important meal. Why you might eat is, well, you're hungry. If it's a morning race, you might wake up feeling hungry, so you need to eat something to tide you over. Unless you're eating 2+ hours before, yeah, you might do that. And unless you're running a half or a full marathon, it's probably important to top up those glycogen stores. Otherwise, if you're doing the 5 or 10k, it's not essential, so it's not worth stressing over. If you want to eat something, sure, but it's not the most important meal before your race. It's not going to dictate how you run. It's not going to determine whether you run a PB or not. So it's not worth stressing over. If you're not typically a I need to eat before a run person, cool, don't stress. So, what food should you eat before a run? You have to think about, where is your blood going during a run? So when you run, where do you want your blood going? To your muscles, exactly, perfect. You don't really want it going to your stomach to digest things. That's why I'm hesitant on kind of prescribing a pre-race meal or something, because you want all your blood going to your muscles. You want to have taken care of your glycogen load and all that stuff well and truly before you actually get on the start line. So if you are going to eat something before your marathon or before your race, it should be low fat, low fiber and low protein. Typically because those take the most energy and blood to digest and process. So you want foods that are easily digested, something high GI, which meaning it's quickly released into the bloodstream. this is the only ever time you'll hear a dietitian say, please eat white foods. So white bread, white rice, white pasta, anything that's white is your friend on race morning. Some people like liquid meals because they're also quickly kind of digested and assimilated. So if you want like a smoothie or something like milk, if you've got a stomach of steel that can handle dairy before a race, those things are all kind of really, really good beforehand. And you don't want something that's just going to sit there and make you feel a bit nauseous. And that's probably the number one reason for a stitch or a cramp is not because you're not fit enough or you haven't had enough magnesium or whatever the trendy science is. It's just because your blood's going into digesting things. So you want to just take away that stress of digesting and just making sure that all your blood's going to your muscles to get you to a PB. So some pre-run food ideas. Got some 5 to 10k. So if you're doing the 5 to 10k, dried fruit is really good. It's quickly digested. It's high GI. It will be kind of digested and assimilated pretty quickly. You can have dates or I think dried fruit. Miss the fruit. So apricots, figs, those kind of dried fruits that are really kind of quickly digested. Crosscuts with honey or jam. Or those like squeezy Chobani tubes, they're all really good to have kind of that hour before you race if you're doing a 5 or 10k. If you're doing a half or a full, it's probably a good idea just to, even if you've done your carb load properly, just to top up a little bit more on race morning. But you want something again that's low fibre, low protein, low fat. So like rice bubbles. Wouldn't typically recommend this, but you're runners, so we're fine here. Crumpets with jam or honey, something that's like white, low GI, easily digested and absorbed. But on a sandwich or like a potato with salt. Me personally, I eat a bowl of rice with some salt on it before I race, and that works for me. It's easy, it's digested pretty quickly. But you can also do kind of any of these variations, like energy gels, whatever you feel comfortable with. I guess the rule of thumb is if it's white, it's got no protein, it's got no fibre, it's got no fat, cool, it's fair game. So that's kind of what you want to be thinking about on race morning, maybe like that 1 to 2 hours before. Anything close, you're kind of running the risk of any like GI discomfort or feeling sick or need to find the porta potties along the way. Any questions so far?
No peanut butter.
Yes, no peanut butter. I know
I'm a
it's
peanut
nice.
butter crazy woman.
I know. It might come later.
Okay.
That's a recovery food.
Yeah.
Might be a recovery food. Cool. So the next thing is eating during a race. So this is really probably the most variable of all topics. It's really dependent on who you are, how much training you've had in the past. It's really personalised and really individual. If you're doing a 5 or a 10k, you probably don't need to think about this, but if you're doing the half or the full, it's something that you really need to consider. I guess the take-home message from this is that nothing is going to save you once you hit the wall. So everyone always talks about that wall in a marathon. No matter when you get to 38k, no matter how many gels you have, you're not going to be saved. So what I always recommend is the earlier the better. So eating during a run, once you start a marathon or even a half, the first time that I have my gels are at that 8k mark, so about half an hour to 35 minutes into a race is probably when you have your first gel. Everyone's always like, oh no, I'll get to halfway and I'll have a gel. I'll get to 30k and I'll have a gel. I'm like, no, you should have done it earlier. Reason being is that it takes your body a long time to kind of actually, first of all, absorb that energy. It takes you about 3k to actually access that energy. So if you are at 30, 7K and you have that gel, or 40K, you're going to be looking pretty sweet. But at 8K, like I always say, 8, 22 and 35, that's usually my typical go-to. Just because the earlier the better is you're going to set yourself up for later in the race when you're kind of preempting that wall. If you've carb loaded properly, you'll never hit the wall, but it's just really good to be able to have that kind of on board already, that energy ready to go. You don't want to tap into your stores too early. So plan to eat sooner rather than later. I don't know what any of you have done in the past, but if you can do it earlier, that's definitely better.
Can you overdo it? Can you overdo it?
Oh yeah, you can overdo it. You can be totally carb
I had
loaded.
some caffeine in the
Yeah. So we're lucky that we're kind of about 5 or 6 weeks out now. And just it's important to know that your stomach is a muscle, it also needs training. So you wouldn't start a marathon having done no runs before. So you wouldn't stand and race Cadbury having done no practice with gels or fuels before. So practicing in long runs, practicing in some of your long tempos at the moment. I don't know your training, but if you've got kind of long training runs at the moment, it's a good idea to start practicing with the gels you might use on race day, just to get your stomach used to being able to handle it and process it and actually use that. If you just decide on race day, hey, I might pick up a gel at 12K, your stomach's probably not going to like that. So you want to start practicing, maybe have a look on the website, what fuel is going to be available on the race, or are you going to carry your gels with you? I tuck mine down my shirt because I don't trust anything else. But just being able to plan for that and know your race strategy and your race plan beforehand is a huge, thing. Choose easily digested fuels. So no fructose. Does everybody know what fructose is, where it is, what it does, what kind of fuel it is? No? Yes? So fructose is like glucose. As human beings, we actually only use glucose. Human beings cannot use fructose. It has to go through our liver, get changed to glucose, and then we use it. So a lot of gels use fructose. So fructose is for anything with fruit. And most of the gels use fructose because it's cheap and easy to put in. Unfortunately for us, if we have fructose, it has to go through our liver. We then need to change that to glucose, and then we can use it. So I'm thinking, if I'm running 42Ks, that's already pretty stressful. I don't want to create any more stress. So finding a gel that has no fructose, it's glucose only, is probably a really good idea. It would also probably save you a lot of kind of stomach issues or GI distress. Coda is a brand that I recommend. You can order their gels online. They're really good. There's a heap of different flavours. I've even got a cappuccino flavour, which I'm like, oh, sweet morning coffee. If you love coffee, it's really good. It's got caffeine in it too. It's like 2 birds with 1 stone. But even just doing a little bit of research, I know a Hammer. Does anybody use Hammer? Yeah, cool. So Hammer has no fructose either, but a lot of other brands will use fructose. So if you're someone with a really sensitive stomach, or you feel like you're not quite getting the most out of your gels at the moment, maybe consider swapping to something that doesn't have any fructose. It would just mean that you can access that energy from your gels a bit quicker, and you won't have to save that time converting whatever you've ingested to then use it to fructose. So Coda is really good. Hammer's also very good, if you just want to consider that. So how much and how often? Well, again, that's really highly variable and highly independent on you. It will depend on how much training you've had with gels in the past. It will depend on how fit you are at the moment. But it ranges between 30 and 60 grams per hour. Why it's a good idea to work with, I guess, a dietitian or even a personal trainer to figure out how much you need. Someone like myself who's very small, I only need 30 grams per hour. If you're kind of a bigger, you're a male, you love your carbohydrates, you might be on that 60 grams per hour. But it's a good idea to have a look at the back of your gels and see, okay, how many grams of carbs are in this gel? How many do I need per hour? And then you kind of suss it out that way. As I said, I do a gel every 8, 22 and 35 because I probably only need about 30 grams per hour. Whereas, you know, if you're a male and you're really fit, you might need 60 per hour. So you might need to carry 6 gels with you. But that's something you need to kind of figure out. Unfortunately, I can't help all of you individually at the moment with it, but that's the kind of range you're looking at. And that's the pure glucose. Does anybody have any questions on that? I'm sorry. So far?
If you're a slower runner, so you take it on the time rather than the distance?
Yeah, you usually always take it on time rather than distance. Only because that's just how your body is designed to kind of process things. It's usually done on an hourly rate, not necessarily by distance. So it's always by time. So if you're out there for 4 hours, you need to plan for being out there for 4 hours. You might need 120 grams of carbs with you for those 4 hours, so you need to know how much to carry. Yeah, do it by time. It's the safest bet, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
There are gels that have got amino acids in them. Do you recommend those?
No, I don't. No. Yeah, look, we'll get to that in the next slide, but I think the human beings are definitely designed for carbohydrates, for performance. If you just wanted to get through a marathon and like, yeah, cool, I just want to finish it, then yeah, sure, they're fine. But if you want to do it as quickly as possible, or you know, you want to get through it as, I guess, less painful as possible, I'd say carbohydrates, you just want to focus on those. If you're doing like an ultra kind of 60, 70k run, they're probably important, but for a marathon on the road, I'd say just focus on something that's strictly carbohydrate. Yeah.
Alternatives to gels? Because I can't tolerate that.
Oh yeah, no. So my first marathon, I carried like a little like clipsil bag, like mashed potato.
From KFC with the gravy.
Yeah, with gravy. No, so like I just carried a little. I made my like own kind of tube thing, so I just got mashed potato and like put it in like a little clipsil bag and like cut a hole in the top and just kind of ate that. So white potatoes really quickly does digest. It will be the same as a gel. It will be absorbed at the same rate as a gel, like a white potato. You could also do. Have you seen those like Cliff Block things? With the little jelly tube. Can you do those?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're also very good because they have very minimal fructose as well. Those like Cliff Blocks. I've also just suggested to some triathletes just a Vegemite sandwich, like with white bread, because you can kind of squish it up and like, you know, with white bread you can like put it into like a ball. That also works really well. So any of those alternatives. And especially sometimes if you're going to be out there for 3 hours, you do get very sick of gels. So sometimes you can like shove, you know, a little sandwich down your sports bra or something. It's really good. It's really nice. Just for that flavour variation, something sweet, you just feel really sick after a while, but something salty, you kind of, it's nice, it's easy to tolerate. The other thing you could do is like a sports drink, so like a Powerade or a Gatorade. Don't know how you feel about those.
Okay.
No.
That's okay, there's options there.
There's options, there are options. Yeah, there's a few options, but yeah, look, gels, understandable, they can get pretty sickly after a while, for sure. So maybe, yeah, trying, you know, boiling the potato the night before and having the extra patty something, I don't know, but just something savoury or white that's easily digestible, like white bread, potato, they'll all be digested just as quickly as a gel. Any other questions? So, eating after a run. It's my favourite topic. I love it. This is probably the most important of everything in nutrition. This is, I'll go to this slide first because the quality of recovery after training will determine how good your adaptations are. So this is what I love about nutrition is that everyone thinks that all you need to do to run well is train well. But most of your gains happen once you stop training, once you stop your watch and you get in your car and you go home. You can further enhance your adaptation to training and your performance once you stop running. Your nutrition is going to impact how you perform tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, and not many people think of that. So poor eating and poor recovery after you finish, they're going to impact how you perform. Depleted energy levels, you feel sore, you feel tired, you feel fatigued, poor focus, that's all going to mean that you're not going to perform at your best. And nutrition is going to definitely impact that. I find it funny that everyone always spends $250 on a pair of shoes, or like they worry about the weight of their bike that's 200 grams lighter than my mates next to me, but they don't look at what they're actually eating or what they're actually doing to recover nutrition wise. And it's the easiest, cheapest, best way to kind of look at your performance. So eating after a run, great performance. There's a myth that, oh my god, I must eat within half an hour. No, it's not true necessarily. It's about a 20-hour window. So you've got about 20 hours where your body's at its optimum of that reabsorption, that adaptations are at their peak. Your enzymes are like going crazy, you're doing things. So you've got about 20 hours. So if you can't get to food within an hour, don't stress. It's not worth the stress. But it should be at the forefront of your mind. What am I doing? Have I brought along snacks with me in the car? Have I done things to really enhance this training session? So I've broken the next part into 3 sections. So I figure everyone does kind of easy runs and jogs, yes? Everyone does a long run, surely. Long run, yeah? And then we'll do our interval sessions. So there's typically three runs that we do in a week. They're all different and they'll all require different kind of eating patterns. So we're going to spend the most time of this presentation on these 3. Your easy runs and jogs. Think about what fuel you're using on those. Surely we're at this point where you don't use that much carbohydrate to get through these runs. You're mostly relying on your blood glucose and your fat stores. That's what we're looking at realistically. Your long run, you probably use a combination of both. You probably burn through your carb first and then you'll rely on some of your fat stores. So we're using both. Interval sessions, you use mostly carbohydrates to get through because you want that quick energy. So every time you do a different run, you're using a different energy source. So you need to think, what have I used? What do I need to replace? That's how I always try to, coach my athletes to think. Replace and prepare. That's what you should be thinking of. What have I used? What do I need to prepare for? I've used carbs. I need to prepare for those. So we've gone through that. So easy jogs and easy days. These 3 are the take-home points. You want higher protein. Realistically, you're not using a lot of carbohydrates, so they shouldn't be at the forefront of your mind. But your easy days and your easy jogs are designed for recovery. So what are you recovering? What are you recovering from? Well, you're probably recovering from a hard run the previous day, so you want to be thinking higher protein. That's just to repair any damaged tissue, because realistically when you're running you get little micro tears or tie or whatnot. That's just going to help repair that tissue. You want plenty of vitamins and minerals again for your antioxidants, help clear some of that lactate if you've done a lactic session. I don't know how many of you do those. And also to reduce your carbohydrate intake. I don't know if any of you experienced it, but sometimes if you overdo the carbs the day before you wake up and you feel really tired and sluggish and you go, oh, what's going on. I just feel really good. That's because for every gram of carb you store in your muscles, you store 2 of water. So sometimes when you get on the scales in the morning, you go, oh shit, kilos, I should only be 58. That's realistically just because you're storing a lot more water, just because carbs hold on to water. So it's not, don't stress, but some marathoners in their carb load go, holy shit, I'm 6 kilos heavier. And I go, chill. You've also got a lot of water going on in there. But you don't want to rock up to a session or a run feeling really overloaded either. So you just want to try and get a really nice balance on your easy days. Just be eating to kind of reflect what you're doing. So if you're not really expending that much energy, you don't really need that many carbohydrates. Does that make sense to everyone so far? So, if you were to put a plate down in front of you, this is probably how it should look. Half of protein, half veggies and fruit, and then you put your kind of carbohydrates on the side. Some meal ideas, look, if you're a morning runner, who's a morning runner trainer? Yeah, most of you, yes. Same. So morning runner, you want to be thinking, I want to put protein on my plate first. So eggs, and then you fill the rest with, spinach, mushrooms, tomatoes. You only have 1 slice of toast, then you might add some feta cheese, avocado, those kind of things. You want to be thinking mostly protein, mostly vegetables that fill up my plate on those easy days, just so you don't overdo it. And then I might add a slice of toast on the side. You could also do something like a Greek yogurt bowl if we're in summer or you don't have time to cook breakfast, which most of us don't. Shove some yogurt in a bowl, put some almonds, some chia seeds, half a banana, and that's pretty much all you need for that kind of morning after an easy run kind of meal. If you're an afternoon runner, or even just, I guess, anytime runner really on an easy day, just be thinking veggie stir fry with a bit of chicken, not rice and a bit of chicken. It's vegetables and a bit of chicken. It's something else that's more protein focused, it's more vegetable focused with a bit of carbs on the side. You might have a piece of salmon, really enjoy a good solid portion of salmon, and mostly vegetables with some quinoa or rice or something on the side. Any questions with that one? Does that make sense? Do you kind of understand the logic behind it? Yeah, cool. So interval sessions, these are like my most hated but also most favourite days because it means you can really go crazy on the carbs, but interval sessions suck. You want to be focusing on high carbs, so anything that's carbohydrate is your friend. And also you want to be focusing on lower fat meals. Fat takes a long time to digest and absorb, so you don't want to create any more stress on your system than it's already under. Like, you've just punched out 10 400s, you don't want to be doing any more stress, you just want to recover properly. So just focusing on things that are low fat, really high carb. And if okay, I'm going to the track, but realistically I'm not going to eat till about 2 hours later or an hour later, bring a snack with you in the car to eat. Fruit, milk, low-fat yogurt, cheese, dried fruit, all of those things are really good quality carbohydrates that are going to be easily digested. So you can just snack on those on the way home and get home and make your breakfast or go to work or whatever it is you're doing. But you just want to make it really easy on yourself to get as much energy digested and absorbed as quickly as possible, just to replenish those glycogen stores for you. You don't want to put your system under any more stress than it's already at. So, porridge with oats. I don't know why I said all oats. Porridge oats. There's no or. Porridge are oats. So with milk or yogurt. Milk is probably the best, I guess, recovery because it's that really nice combination of protein and carbohydrates. So if you're not lactose intolerant, is there anyone lactose intolerant here? So something like a rice milk would be good for you guys. Rice or oat milk, not almond. nothing in almond milk. It's pretty much just water with a bit of almond flavouring. But rice or oatmeal, because you've got a lot more carbohydrates in there to get in. So a smoothie, if you can make it, chuck some oats in there, put some milk, yogurt, and fruit in there. Grain toast, and then chuck a little bit of tomato or spinach for a bit of colour and iron and whatnot. Or if you can do the whole like birch and muesli the night before, kind of prepare your brekkie before and then bring it along with you. Huge fan of that. If you're an afternoon trainer, definitely go for like the fried rice for dinner or something. Put an egg in there, but I think that meal following your session, so if you do your session in the morning, breakfast is the most important. If you do your hard session in the afternoon, dinner is your most important. So that's when you want to be thinking that meal following my training is where I'm going to get those even more adaptations, not just kind of.
Can I just ask a dumb question? Can you say what you mean by adaptation?
Yeah. So when you run, you rely on these things called mitochondria. Has anybody heard of mitochondria? Yeah. So they're your powerhouse. They produce your energy for you. You can actually help grow those by eating more carbohydrate. So they are what is in charge of turning your food into energy. So if you eat the right energy, you're going to grow more. So if you run and you kind of are asking your body to have more energy, if you eat the right things, you're going to produce those to be able to handle that demand of training. So that's why that meal following training is the most important. Yes, you've got a 20-hour window, but you're probably still going to get the most gains in that meal 1 to 2 hours after, and even that kind of whole day. So if you know that yes, on Tuesday I'm doing 400 meter reps, make that a carb day. Just go nuts on the carbs.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Does that make sense? Cool. So yeah, there's a few ideas there. Sweet potato with meat and veg. Spaghetti with sauce. Like, don't be afraid of kind of going to town with carbohydrates. They get a bad rap these days with like keto and stuff like that. But if you want to run quickly and want to get through a marathon, they're your friend. That's what all the research is these days. Cool. So the long run. Does everyone do a weekly long run? Yes. Yeah. Look, the long runs are really cool. It's cool, but it's a terrible run. 1, because you have to do it, but 2, because you get to enjoy all the things afterwards. But it's a really cool run because there's the combination of an easy run plus a bit of interval with it. Your first and foremost thought should be, I need to rehydrate. No matter how much you drink during your long run, you'll never be able to take in as much as you lose. That's probably the thing to take home. You'll never be able to take it. So the first thing, when you get in your car, whether you've been up to the pipeline or wherever you go, is to rehydrate. And that can be water. I'm not the biggest fan of water. I'd suggest getting like a electrolyte tablet and putting it in your water. So you obviously sweat out a lot of sodium, you sweat out a lot of magnesium, you sweat out a lot of electrolytes. So if you can get yourself even just a hydrolyte from the chemist, put that in your water, so when you get into the car, that's your first and foremost. If you're not hydrated enough to actually carry your fuel around your body, you're also not going to absorb that fuel very well. So if you're dehydrated and then you go straight to the cafe to have some poached eggs on toast, you're probably not going to absorb that as quickly as you would if you were hydrated. So that should be your first and foremost thought after a long run. Is to rehydrate. So whether that's milk, electrolytes, I dare say Coca-Cola, but I'm going to say it. It's better than nothing at this point. So just be thinking, okay, that should be your first thought once you finish the long run. Your second thought should be carbs. As per previous slides, you want to be thinking, oats, heaps of toast, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, anything that's high carbohydrate should be meal 1. That's what you want to be thinking of, because even in a long run, even though you typically don't go as fast as you would in an interval session, that's what your body will use first to get through that long run is carbohydrates, and then it will go to its other stores. So you want to replace what you've lost first, which is carbs. Then later in the day, you'll go to your easy run days, be thinking, okay, more protein. So if you do your long run in the morning, breakfast, carbs, dinner, protein. So if you want to go out for that 400 gram porterhouse steak, Sunday afternoon is your perfect opportunity. Focus on, because your muscles do occur a lot of damage in that kind of whole long run process. So they need repairing as well. So replenish your glycogen first, and then replenish your protein later on, once you've rehydrated. Because obviously your blood is what carries the nutrients around. So as your blood volume is back up to what it normally is, it's going to be able to take all those things around it. Question?
Coconut water? For coconut water?
Oh yeah, coconut water is good. Yeah, there's a lot of electrolytes in coconut water. Huge fan of coconut water. I think it's very good these days, and a very good option after the long run for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Does that mean you wouldn't have protein shakes or anything like that?
No, I wouldn't suggest a protein shake right after you've finished. I'd suggest like an orange juice. You know, just bring along one of those Golden Valley or the Daily Juice or one of those things in your car is probably more effective at making sure that you're recovered and replenished for the next day rather than a protein shake. In the afternoon, if you want to do that, that's cool. But immediately after, probably not. Probably not. No. That's really all I've got for you guys. Any questions about anything that we've spoken about? Now's your chance.
When you said after you wouldn't have a protein shake, are there other supplement type products that you would have at that point?
Just electrolytes, I think. Yeah, a hydrolyte is really easy. I know it's really accessible from a chemist, super easy. Even those Hammer, have you seen those fizz things? They're also very good. Coda also does a very good fizzy electrolyte tablet. They're also very good as soon as you're done. I think that should be probably the first and foremost, and especially because Cadbury is in summer. So people kind of often overlook how many electrolytes they're sweating out, and if you replace the water, you've not really replaced the electrolytes. So that should also be, you should also be thinking of that. That's why coconut water is also very good. So if you just bring along one of those, they'll also be just as effective. Yeah.
And that sort of helps you with your recovery of your muscles and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
And
yeah.
it also prevents things like cramping and all that.
Yeah. So cramps are usually, everyone's always like, oh, smash the magnesium for a cramp. But the reason you cramp is not because of magnesium, it's because there's not enough sodium. So put salt on your meals too. Don't be afraid of putting a bit of salt on. As I said, to start with, we're doing something that the human body is not designed to do. So prescribing to the normal, way of eating is something that you need to just not think of. And yes, salt is your friend, as are carbohydrates, as are white things. So putting a bit of salt on your meal is probably going to help you stop to cramp, and also just make sure that you're fully hydrated, because salt makes you hold on to water as well. So if you're putting a bit of salt with your meal, you're going to actually probably stay a little bit more hydrated than you would otherwise. Yeah.
So when would you say is the main meal to eat for your long run, for your marathon?
For your marathon, the night before.
The night.
So the earlier the better. Me personally, I struggle to eat the morning of. So I'll eat dinner 5:36, and then I'll have a snack kind of at 9:30, 10 p.m. to stop needing. Also, I love my sleep, so I'd rather not get up at 3 a.m. for a 6 o'clock run. So the earlier you can get in your carbohydrates, the better. The carb load is another topic in and of itself, but if you've carb loaded well, you shouldn't need to eat on that morning. As I said before, the reason you might eat on that morning is just because you're really hungry or you just feel like you need to top up something. But that meal the night before is definitely like a bowl of rice, or like rice and potatoes, rice and pasta, something the night before. That's going to have the biggest impact on your marathon, not whatever you do in that morning of. Yeah. In fact, even the night before. So, Friday night is probably more important than Saturday night. So don't be afraid to start thinking about carbs, even that Thursday, Friday and Saturday night before, but you might just only eat, rice, potato. It's really weird, but do you get sick of carbs? If you carb load properly, you should not want to look at another bowl of carbs. If you do it properly, you'll be like, oh my God, where's the meat at? But, you need to start thinking about that. The earlier the better. If you can start doing it earlier, you're going to be better. You won't hit the wall if you do it earlier. Definitely. Yeah.
Does your meal the night before at 10 have any impact?
Yeah. I think definitely in a 5 or 10, a high carbohydrate meal is going to help, especially if you're trying for a PB, you're trying to go fast. I think if you've got that glycogen in your muscles locked and loaded, ready to go. The biggest, piece of advice there is don't be scared if you're standing on the 10K and for that first probably 1 or 2 Ks of a 10, you feel crap. Like you just feel really slow, heavy, sluggish. That's just your body adapting to how much glycogen. As I said, for every gram of carb you store 2 of water, so you just feel a bit, but once you kind of get to 6 or 7, 8K and you bang it home, you'll be really thankful for that meal that you had the night before. So yes, for a 10K I'd suggest minimal protein, minimal fat, very high carbohydrate is definitely going to help you out the night before. For a marathon, you might start doing that Thursday night. For a 10K, you probably only need to do that Saturday night. Yeah.
I'm never sure how my limit really is about half marathon. I'm never quite sure how much I should drink. I do a lot of trail running, so I run with one of those little pack things and I just pop an electrolyte in. And sometimes I might be out for 2 or 3 hours and I might only drink 300 or 400 ml. Should you force yourself to sort of drink regularly even though you don't feel thirsty, or is it okay to just go with how thirsty you feel, and as long as you sort of rehydrate once you've stopped? Like I just don't know. Like I'll be running along, I'm not even thirsty, and I'll just let myself have a couple of hours and I don't feel like it.
Look, that's a good question. It actually probably depends more on how much you sweat. As I said, you're never going to be able to replace as much as you lose. Your stomach just doesn't have that capability. Short answer, no, you shouldn't stress about it. As long as you've got an electrolyte in your water. I think if you were just drinking water alone, I'd be a little bit worried, but because you've got electrolyte in there, drink to thirst. I'd usually, the stomach can handle its maximum 900 mils per hour. So if you can get through 300, I'd be pretty happy with that. It will also depend on the temperature. If it's really hot, I say don't pass on the opportunity to have at least a mouthful every drink station, at least. If you're carrying your own and you can put your electrolytes in there, have a drink, even if it's just a mouthful or 2. It's highly dependable on how much you sweat. Some people sweat heaps and some people sweat very little. That's genetic, you can't change how much you sweat. So if you do your training sessions and at the end of it you go, oh, I haven't sweated that much, don't stress about drinking, just drink to thirst. But if you finish your training session and you're like, oh shit, there's a lot of water here, you have to drink at least a cup every station. So that's very, very individual. So for you, if you don't sweat a lot, a mouthful, okay, that's cool. But if you sweat a lot, I'd definitely say do not miss a drink station. Have one, even if you don't feel like it. Even if it's 5K and you're only into it, as I said, the earlier the better. Whatever you can do as early on in the race is going to help you at 35K. So whatever you do at 5, 10, 15, your 35K self will thank you for what you've done at your 5K self. So just, yeah, keep that in mind. The earlier the better, whatever you can do early on. Yeah.
So I ask you maybe how, if you're trying to reduce weight while you're training, and you do it, like, should you focus on reducing, or whatever, dieting on the days or that you're not running and eating that way on the days that you are running, or how should you work
I think if you are trying to cut weight, it's better to do it on your easy days, to really look at reducing your portion sizes and your overall energy intake on those easy days, because you don't want to get to do your 400 interval session or your 1K reps. You don't want to sacrifice those adaptations that you make by reducing your intake. So I think maybe cut back on your easy days where you're not in that energy demand, but then eat again normally or a little bit more on those harder training session days. That's probably the best and smartest and safest way to go about it, rather than sacrificing your recovery and your training that way. Yeah.
Caffeine, before, during and after.
Yeah, so caffeine has, it probably kicks in about an hour into, so if you have a coffee and then run 15 minutes later, you're not going to feel it until about 45 minutes. It's got a really long half-life, so it will last a long time. So for me personally, my first gel is a caffeinated gel, because I know that if I have that at 8K, well at 35 I'm going to be feeling really wicked. So if you have, a lot of people will be like, oh, have a caffeine boost at 35. I'm like, too late, bro. We've still got it, an hour once you finish, you'll be like, wicked, let's do this. But so I think if you have your coffee or whatever it is an hour before your race, you'll stay on the start line, you'll feel mint. If you have your first gel and it's a caffeinated gel, you'll feel really good, mid-race or towards the end of the race. So caffeine will last a while. You don't need to overdo it, because it can also cause a lot of GI kind of gut distress. The amount, you probably only need 80 milligrams, and that will be enough. So if you know that the marathon starts at 6 and you have a coffee at 5, cool, you'll feel that effects of that caffeine for the entire race. If you don't have a coffee first up and you have your first gel, you're going to feel really wicked to bring you home. Is kind of how you plan the caffeine intake a little bit.
What about
After?
after?
Nah. So do whatever you like after.
So your 35K gel, should you have caffeine in that or not?
You won't notice it. I personally don't. I just have a normal gel. You can if you like, if you want, but realistically, caffeine doesn't kick in till about 15 minutes, and then it will last forever. So if you want a gel at 35, you'll probably experience that, boost at 38, and then it's going to last a little bit, but it's savey kind of thing. It's a really slow releasing substance. So my suggestion with caffeine is have it earlier to get that full. And it does last a long time. It lasts a while. Caffeine's got a really long half-life, so it does last a while. Yeah.
So rather than having a few normal meals and then a caffeine to finish, or not a tea,
Swap it.
start with the caffeine
Yeah,
and then
swap it.
have some.
I think you'll be surprised at how good,
Okay.
good it is.
I'm asking for a friend.
We all are. Yeah.
Give me a bit of a perk. What does caffeine actually do when you're running?
When you're running, it just dilates blood vessels, really. It actually does, it is a little bit of a natural dilator, so you do get a little bit more blood flow. I'm not saying it's going to change the world, but it does dilate blood vessels, and it also helps with, I guess, mental kind of focus. So if you've got to focus for, 3-hour, 4-hour marathon, you kind of just maybe want that little bit of edge.
And Cadbury chocolate post run obviously is.
Oh yeah, that's a necessity.
That's
I
for
think
sure.
it is. I think like last year I won 5 kilos.
Yeah.
still getting through it. Yeah, it is a necessity
Yeah.
to have those run chocolate. Because chocolate is milk, so it's it's protein, it's
Glass and
carbs. It's like the ideal combo. The ideal place to run. So yeah, definitely chocolate. That's a good one.
Awesome, thank you. Big thank you. Things, first of all, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm mind blown that you'd actually change your diet per day. So that's like it never occurred to me at a training session. So it kind of feels like we've all got an advantage here now. And I
Don't
think
tell
that's
anyone.
really-
I'm going to delete all the
appreciate
footage.
that. I also had this thought, if you ever go to write a book, you should call it Nothing Will Save You at the World. That would be the coolest.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Nutrition advice.
Yeah, with the, yeah.
It is true. I've seen like people just hobbling along, they're like sucking back on drugs. I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, bro. It's not looking good for you, mate.
And just to remind everyone, we've got a run on, I think it's the Saturday the 21st, which is a bit of a course recon that's going to include that little hill back up to the finish line. And we were actually going to set up a little drink station to practice there, and we'll probably knock up a bowl of mashed potato or something. Because that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Small thank you. That's
yes.
probably like a Sunday night treat.
No,
I think.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And thanks everyone for turning up.
Thank you.